48-hour art check, round 102. All right, here we are, and Josh has changed significantly. No, I'm just kidding. I've got Jordan Perry with me here, and Jordan, you're gonna talk to us today about kind of artist injuries and how to prevent that, and we'll kind of get into your background and everything in a bit. But let's start with the 48-hour art check. We've got a couple people in the chats, and so if you guys want to start thinking up questions on what you might do as an artist, animator, creative, people who sit at a desk or at a drafting table for a long period of time, throw those questions in the chats, and we will get to those right after we do the art check. So what we're going to do, Jordan, is first off, I'm just going to kind of go through the art check. So we'll start with what we've done or accomplished in the last 48 hours. Then we move on to what was challenging in the last 48 hours and how we overcame that, and then what we're planning on doing the next 48 hours. And the trick is I've got a timer that's going to be 30 seconds, and so you'll see that on the screen. So I'll start, and then you can go after, right? So
sounds good.
Let's see here. Where's my button? Okay, so progress. So I've been working on this page, and I've been super slammed, which I'll get to in challenges, but I did get one more panel done, so you can kind of see that the sea serpent is there. So one panel done, one more to go, and I've been doing a little bit more on the back end and some of the animation and things that I've been working on some stuff that I can't show yet. So not as much progress as I had hoped for, but still some progress is better than none. So how about you? What did you get done in the last 48 hours?
So we'll get into this a little bit, but I'm an endurance athlete, and we just had a baby a couple months ago. But I'm trying to amp up my art game in photography. So me and my son go hiking a lot, and my thing that I've been trying to work on is composition of photographs, whether it's me and my son in them, whether it's, a one-hand selfie, but also getting the composition right with the sunset or whatnot. But there's been a lot of challenges with that, and it's kind of fun for me to play with photography as well, while combining that with my love for my son and endurance athletics.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you're a triathlete, right? You do biking, swimming, and marathons.
It's true. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. So now we'll do challenges. Main challenge for me is I had 2 12-plus hour days in a row at work, and then a 7 a.m. meeting, and so I was just slammed. And so I normally am able to stay up a little bit later. But last night I just crashed super early, and I basically was just able to kind of get like one panel knocked out before I was done, and so I lost 2-3 hours of what I normally have just because I was just kind of beat, and I'm still kind of recovering from that. But that was kind of the main challenge.
Yeah, I heard that yawn there.
Yeah, sorry. I'll mute it next time. So how about you? What's challenging in kind of getting some of those things accomplished with photography and whatnot?
Honestly, the biggest challenge I think for me right now is I shoot everything on my iPhone, and it's still just trying to figure out compositions of lights in the darks. I also have a DSLR that I like to shoot with, but I haven't been bringing that with me recently. Mm-hmm. But just kind of figuring out post-process editing a little bit. I've played with it a little bit in the background, but I don't know, getting better at that, so things actually look a little bit more polished and actually look how they really do in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun.
Cool. That's great. And so next up we'll do plans. Before we get into plans, just a quick reminder, we got a few more people in the chat. If you want to share this link, I think this is going to be a good one for everybody, because we talk about like technique a lot, but we don't necessarily talk about like injury prevention and like slip discs and carpal tunnel, and there's like lots of things that can happen with kind of a lifestyle that a lot of us lead. So share this, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. So as far as plans go, my plans are basically just I need to finish this page, and then I'm going to get all 4 pages printed. So I'm working on a 4-page short story for an anthology, and so my plan was to get the pencils kind of knocked out much sooner than this. I'll be doing some inks. I don't think I'll be able to get to the inks by Friday, but I might be able to. So I'll finish the panel that I've got left, print all 4 pages, and I'll be ready to go on inks for the weekend. That's kind of my plans. So how about you, Jordan? What are your plans for the next 2 days?
The next 2 days, we're actually getting ready. I'm here down in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and we're gonna take a trip up to Central Coast. Actually, Cory, from where you're from, just outside of Paso Robles.
Oh, cool.
And so we're going to Morro Bay, gonna spend some time with family and some friends up there. So just getting ready for that trip. It's supposed to be a huge storm coming in. I was going to bring my road bike and a jogging stroller and the whole 9 yards, but I don't know. We'll see if the weather persuades me otherwise. But generally, I go for it, rain or shine.
Yeah, that's cool. It's usually pretty temperate up there, so you should be all right.
Yeah, this storm, they're saying gale force winds up to 60 miles per hour.
Wow.
So I think it's going to be actually really fun because whenever we go to the Central Coast, it's always absolutely stunning and gorgeous and just like quintessential.
Yeah.
So it's actually going to be really fun because our family has a house right on the Morro Bay, and so it's going to be fun to see the storm roll, and I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. That's awesome. All right. So what we're going to do now is we'll kind of jump in and just so you know, Jordan, I will kind of when this goes to a podcast, everybody's questions and stuff will be live on the podcast. We'll include those from the chat, but I cut off everything that we've just done at the beginning. So I'm going to start this as if we're starting a podcast right now. Welcome to the 48-Hour Art Check. Today's topic is preventing injuries and maintenance from an actual physical therapist. So Jordan, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I thought this would be really an interesting topic to kind of go over because I have some of them here, and I don't know if you can. I'll hold them up, and you can tell me whether they're worthless or whether it's a placebo or whatever. But I've kind of come up with a series of things that I do because I'm kind of approaching 40, and a lot of my time is spent several hours a day kind of hunched over a drafting table or.
Wait, Cory, how do you kind of approach 40? I'm just curious.
I'm trying to soften it. I still think I'm in my mid 30s, sorry. But in a month or two, I'm going to be 39. So I'm kind of approaching it, right? I'm still. Fair. I think 39 is still mid 40s, right? That counts.
That's fair. I'll buy it.
So, I think when I actually turn 40, I'm not sure what I'm going to say because I've been claiming mid 30s for a while, but yeah. But I mean, I spend a significant amount of my time, hunched over, and if I don't pay attention to certain things. I can get cramps in my hand. I can get kind of like what I think might be like a tennis elbow situation. My neck can hurt. I've had periods of time where I just had like a permanent knot behind my shoulder blade, like just on the left side. And so there's been different things that I've had to do to kind of adjust for this. But I'm just curious because a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are people who spend a lot of time at the computer or a lot of time at a drafting table, but a lot of time like sedentary, sitting, stationary, arms forward, leaning forward. What are some basic things that we could do to kind of not kill ourselves and burn our body out prematurely?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is a really hard question. Not in that it's hard to implement things, but it's just hard to actually do what is necessary to avoid some of these aches and pains that are very common with artists, both artistic in terms of like drafting or painting, things like that, but also my musicians as well that I see.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because we're oftentimes very asymmetrical. You're right-handed, you're left-handed, you're hunched over that drafting board, you're hunched over that computer or over that instrument. But I think you nailed one of the first things that I recommend to all my patients, and that is you got to get up. You've got to give yourself breaks. When you stay in one position for way too long, you're just going to start feeling it, and you're going to break down. And you know what? When you're in your 20s, maybe it's going to take a lot longer for you to break down, but when you get into your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you break down a little bit faster and faster and faster. So just getting up, and I recommend my patients move every 45 minutes to an hour. Whether you drink so much fluid that you just have to get up and go to the restroom or, whatever tricks it takes. And I have people put alarms on their cell phones, on their computers, sticky notes, talk to loved ones to make them get up. but it's creating that habit and having other people or other external reminders help you remember to just stand up, stretch, move around, and then get right back into it. Because sometimes you don't want to interrupt those creative juices that are flowing.
Yeah.
But that's one of the biggest thing I recommend.
So during those breaks, you said that they can be quick, which is good because once I get into the flow, I kind of lose it if I get distracted. But what type of stretches or moving? I mean, is it just the fact that I stood up, or should I go do some lunges? Should I run up and down some stairs? I mean, should I like get down and do some quadricep hamstring type stretches? Or what is it that what are the actual activities that I should be doing during those breaks?
You know what? That is a really good question. I say it depends on where you're at in your process.
Okay.
I mean, if you're in the thick and thin of it and you're really having a great creative session and things are just working, get up, stretch, turn your head side to side, look all the way to the right, look all the way to the left, twist your back a little bit, sit back down, get right back into it. Because that's all you have to afford so that you don't lose where you're at. And that happens, and that's okay. If you have more time and if you can take a little bit of a break, even a minute to 5 minutes is enough. I would sit down and I say, because what you do as an artist is so asymmetrical, you want to try to undo that asymmetry.
Okay.
So whether that's push-ups are very symmetrical, right? You got one arm on each side, arms at 90 degrees, give or take a little bit, and you bust out 10, 15, 20 push-ups. You've worked your right shoulder, you've worked your left shoulder, your right pec, your left pec. Your head, your neck muscles have to be working symmetrically while you do that. You're undoing some of these asymmetries you've been putting yourself in for the past hour. So that's an easy one. Foam rollers. A lot of people love foam rollers. I don't think they're the cure-all. It's not going to fix everything. But rolling out your back, rolling out your shoulders. I love lacrosse balls. They're small. You can take them anywhere. They can travel with them. And if you've got that knot like you were talking about on that left side, know that it's there. Know that it's a propensity. So preemptively, in that 30-second minute break, take that foam roller, roll it against the wall, that lacrosse ball or foam roller, and you can work that out. Pull-ups. I love pull-ups. It's another one that's very symmetrical. Yeah, I could keep going. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all super helpful. So basically, anything that I'm going to do that's going to engage like both sides of my body will kind of reset things and help things. Because what I found is when I had that knot, if you were to come to my studio, you would see that I don't have any arms on any of my chairs, and it's because what I was doing, and I didn't realize it, because I was talking to the chiropractor. I talked to a couple of them. I talked to a couple of massage therapists. Finally, a friend of mine who's a massage therapist was like, "Can I just come and watch you draw?" I was like, "Sure." So she came by, and then immediately she was like, "Oh yeah, that's what's going on." And I was like, "Well, what?" And she's like, "I had been putting the entire weight of my body on my left arm because we couldn't figure out why it was my left shoulder that was causing problems when my right arm is the one that's forward, right? That I'm right." And she said, "You're like supporting the entire weight of your upper body like in this stationary weird position where you're just like leaning on your elbow," because I was trying to like free up my right arm. And so now that I like removed the arms off of my drawing chair, like I can't do that anymore. And so I find that I'm like upright a little bit better. But a persistent one that I have now, and I know that this came up in the last episode, is because I'm doing a lot of work with my fingers and with my wrist and with my elbow and my shoulder, like depending on how coarse or fine I'm, the lines that I'm putting down. I get a lot of pain like along like the top of my forearm and especially like in the back of my hand. Is there something, I've got two questions, something that I can do that I should be doing to prevent that? And the other one is, if that starts to happen, is there something that I should be doing to kind of like ward off serious injury or to strengthen something to kind of avoid that repetitive stress injury in the future?
Yeah, great question. So just keep me honest, make sure I answer both those questions.
Okay.
Because I tend to go down rabbit holes sometimes.
That's unacceptable on a podcast.
I'm a bit of a nerd. So first of all, you kind of alluded to tennis elbow earlier. Tennis elbow really needs to be diagnosed by a healthcare professional to really see if it's tennis elbow or not. But yeah, the symptoms you're describing are such that they would align with tennis elbow. what a lot of research is showing now is that tennis elbow actually comes from imbalances in the shoulder, not actually the elbow or the wrist.
Okay.
And so once again, you go back to your drawing board, literally, pun intended, and you're hunched over your drawing board, you're hunched over your tablet.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's due to weakness in the shoulder blade and the shoulder muscles that put more stress on the elbow and on the wrist to try to help stabilize the shoulder. Sounds kind of weird. Elbow doesn't help stabilize the shoulder, but the body doesn't know that when it's all kind of, not a pretzel, but you are askew a little bit.
Right.
So a preventative thing that you can do is strengthen your shoulder blades. And so some of those exercises that I mentioned, the push-ups, the pull-ups, there's simple banded exercises where you just pull your arms apart with your elbows next to your side. Those will all target those muscles and help decrease the chance of putting extra strain at the elbow. In a very large picture, other things that you can do are just wrist curls. Like you do a bicep curl, it's like doing a bicep curl for your wrist. And so your forearm's stationary, you can go, up, or like you're working the throttle of a motorcycle, but with 5-10 pound weight in your hand. And you can take little breaks doing that. And that's going to work all those muscles in a way that's different from the repetitive motion of whether you're doing your broad strokes or your tiny detailed work. But you're working all of those muscles, and that's the idea, is to kind of work them differently than you would normally do while you are painting or while you are drawing or whatever it is that you're doing, playing the guitar or whatnot.
So how do you know, when is enough on those exercises and when is too much? Because at some point in time, you could get, I'm sure I could overdo it on those wrist curls and cause myself injury. Or not do enough reps and it's not really doing anything. Is there kind of a sensation that I should be paying attention to, or what do I do to kind of gauge that?
That's a great question. And that's always one of the questions that we get is, what's too much, what's not enough? How do I know? And that's ultimately, it comes down to just knowing your body, which kind of sounds a little bit funny sometimes, but it truly is. Any athlete that I work with, and I consider artists athletes as well, just in a different respect, because your wrists and your forearms are doing things that my wrists and forearms cannot do.
Sure.
So you're just training your body in a way that's very different than how I train my body, but we still have to go through the same physiological processes of adaptation and strengthening. So what I like to tell people is, if there's a mild discomfort and it's just kind of a little bit of an ache and you're like, oh, I'm aware of it, but it's not killing me, it's no big deal. Like, know that you need to start paying attention to it. Maybe stretch out your forearms a little bit. Maybe stretch out your shoulders. You're working in those breaks every 45 minutes to an hour. But when it becomes, oh my gosh, like, no, I'm not even painting right now, or I'm not even sketching right now, and I feel it, okay, we've gone too far. We need to pull you back. So if you're a runner, I'm going to tell you, okay, you got to stop running as much. I'm not going to tell you not to run. I'm going to tell you decrease your mileage, decrease your volume. So I'm not going to tell you to stop working on your art. I'm going to say, how long are your sessions? Oh, you're going for 4 hours at a time? Let's cut that in half. Let's go 2 hours at a time, take an hour break, and then you do another 2 hour session.
Okay.
Now, if your job is dependent on it, sometimes this can be a little bit challenging, but we've really got to make sure that we don't give the body more of a load than it can handle at that given time. And so that's where I say, when that ache and that kind of awareness turns into a, ouch, this is really hurting me and this is stopping me from doing what I want to do, that's where we've crossed that line into danger. Right. If you're doing an exercise, a stretch, strengthening exercise, and you're starting to get that same, ooh, that's painful. Okay, we're doing way too much. Exercise should not be painful. Art should not be painful. So does that kind of help answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, it does. And I want to point two things out. One, a licensed medical professional just said that art is an athletic activity. So I'm good with that. That you've just made everybody really happy. You're all jocks now, everybody who's listening. Just kidding. But yeah, the other thing is I like the idea of kind of paying attention to my body and understand, because I mean, and I don't know if this is just something because I was a 3-sport athlete in high school and I did a lot of rock climbing in college, and so like I'm aware of the difference between like an injury level pain or discomfort from just fatigue, and I'm not sure if everybody's along those lines or whatever, but we've got a question in the chat here. For somebody who's doing their work digitally, what are some things that I can do to prevent eye damage? And I'm not sure if you have any expertise in that area or not, but does anything come to mind on that?
Yeah, so this is actually something I've been really fascinated in. I will say that I do not have expertise in this area, But I have actually done a lot of my own research just because I have been very curious about screen time and about what it does to my eyes. I
Mm-hmm.
had LASIK a couple years ago, so I've talked to a couple different optometrists about what screens do to my eyes and whatnot. Um, so there's a couple different things, and I just listened to a podcast actually yesterday about sleep and screens and how they impact that. Because once again, a lot of times you're staring at a screen 24/7. That blue light, if you're familiar with the blue light, those short wavelength, I think it's short wavelength, can actually decrease levels of serotonin secretion in your brain, which will help throw off your entire sleep cycle, your sleep
Right.
wake cycle.
Which is why they
So
say
there,
you shouldn't like fall asleep looking at your phone, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. They say, I think the recommendation is 1 hour to try to unplug from electronics an hour before bedtime. Once again, sometimes that's not possible due to your work or schedule or things like that. There are programs out there that actually can decrease blue light in your electronic devices. So if you have a
Mm-hmm.
Apple product, you can adjust the warmth of your screen, put it in night mode, and that will actually, once again, this is more sleep, so I'm not quite sure if this is pertaining to the question exactly. But there's also glasses out there that will cut down blue light. Um, I don't think I've never seen. Once again, this is not my area of expertise. I haven't seen anything saying that blue light is harmful, but it just does mess with those, sleep wake cycles
Yeah.
and serotonin release.
And what I've actually been told by an optometrist is that if I'm doing that in the dark, that's not great because what'll happen is that your eyes are not exactly sure like how open to be to allow light in. But if there's about
Yeah,
the same level of light in the room as there is in the screen, then it kind of evens everything out. And that you're doing okay. But one of the things that I've seen and that I've talked to people about is that oftentimes, and I'll have to do this. This is going to be great radio for those people listening to the podcast. But you stick your head forward and kind of sticking your head forward. You kind of kink your neck at the back of the skull, reduces blood flow and things, and it causes a lot of problems. And oftentimes, a lot of what we see as or what we feel as eye strain is sometimes like a headache coming on that's due to because our shoulders are tensed up or our neck is in a weird position because we're not really like aligning the things that we should. Bad posture basically is causing a lot of those issues, and it's not necessarily that our eyes are fatigued as much as it is that we're just getting a headache or we're getting less blood flow or like something else that's kind of causing it. Kind of like you said with like the problem in your elbow is actually in your shoulder. It can often be that
exactly.
type of thing.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because once again, I mean, we could talk about all kinds of, tricks and things that we can do. But ultimately, if you're having issues, I mean, the best thing to do is go see your healthcare professional, whether you have a good doctor you can trust or a chiropractor or a physical therapist. Even like you said, Corey, that massage therapist saw how you were drawing and she could instantly see, or he could instantly see that, oh, that's what's wrong.
Right.
I mean, that is what I do for my profession is I watch how people move and make an adjustment. So oftentimes that headache that you have or that eye strain that you have, you're absolutely right, could come from cervical genital headaches, which is
Mm-hmm.
coming from your neck. And it's because you are craning and straining, and those muscles are just so tight, and the spine is actually out of alignment, pinching off nerves that are communicating with your eyes or the area of your forehead, things like that can cause headaches and tension and whatnot. So it's really important to do our best to diagnose, which is where Google is awesome and Google is horrible because Dr. Google can get things right and can get things wrong. But finding out where the real problem is at and what's causing the problem is what is crucial in getting rid of some of these issues, whether it's these tension headaches, whether it's pain in the elbow, whatever the case might be.
Okay. Okay. What I want to do is I want to take one or two more questions and then do a quick lightning round, and we'll wrap up here pretty quick. So, Pepper DeLuca, I'll pull this up. She has, or he or she, actually, I don't know. Sorry, Pepper, I'm not sure. Has a question. Do you have anything for people with nerve damage? So there's been some significant injury. I'm assuming this is diagnosed nerve damage. Is there anything that can be done? Once the nerves themselves are damaged?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Most common with artists is going to be like carpal tunnel type of things or cervical thoracic outlet syndrome. It's where nerves are pinched off coming from the neck, but it actually is felt and perceived in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with your hand. It's from the neck. Yes, a lot of people write this off and say, oh, well, there's nothing you can do. Here's some drugs. I am not a huge fan of drugs. I think they have their place. But once again, finding the source of the issue. My mom had carpal tunnel. She plays the harp. It was actually coming from her neck, not her wrist. You address the neck, the wrist got better. Nerves do grow and they regenerate at about 1 millimeter per day. So if you do have nerve damage, we can't say that it 100% won't come back, but it just depends on the damage. If you cut off a nerve, that severed nerve has to find the other nerve. And if you're growing at 1 millimeter a day, there's a chance that it might not, get back into the right place with, amputations and surgeries. I see that a lot with surgical rehab. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I tell people is that the brain is phenomenal. People will see changes in their nervous system years after the injury. A great example is stroke. I got a patient right now who, when I first saw him over 1.5 years ago, could barely walk, and now we're doing laps around his property. Doctor said he would never be able to walk again. So once again, this is a very, very broad category of nerve damage, and it all really depends. But I'd say if you can find the true diagnosis, which is hard, I wouldn't write it off. I'd just keep trying to figure it out, and there is hope.
Good, yeah, that's great. And sorry, Pepper, I know you're a he, but when I'm like trying to talk and read at the same time, I don't know, I got confused. Sorry, dude. I know. Anyway, now let's do kind of a lightning round. I'm going to show you some stuff that I've been using, and you can just tell me real fast whether you think it's doing something useful or whether it's kind of a placebo thing. Okay, good.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
So I've got this thing. For those of you that are listening to this is like a big, it's like a big hook, and it's got little balls on it. And what I'll do. What is it called?
Google Theracane.
Theracane. Okay.
Yeah.
So especially on this knot in my back, instead of like having somebody else massage me or whatever, I can take this and I can kind of dig it into my back and find that knot and kind of pull, and so I kind of use it as kind of like a self pressure point thing. Is that worth something or not?
I'd say two things. First of all, excellent. Some people like a lot of pressure and go really, really deep, and that actually help relieve knots and tension in their muscles. Awesome. Okay. Some people will respond really, really poorly to going hardcore at those knots, and it actually makes things worse. If you like a really deep tissue massage, great. Go all at it, go really hard. If you like a light and you really respond well to light tissue massage, don't do that. You're not going to do yourself any favor. The second thing I would say to that is, why is that happening? Why do you have those knots? Great, you're treating a symptom right now. You're treating the pain, but why do you have those knots? And I would venture to say it's probably postural related. There's maybe some imbalances, maybe some weaknesses. So as though we do have some ways to decrease your symptoms, awesome, we need that. But ultimately, my goal, if I was working with you one-on-one, would be like, no, let's figure out why you have those knots. Let's strengthen those muscles. Let's get rid of those knots so you don't need the secondary thing to help you out. Okay. Is it good? Yes. Could it be not even necessary? Yes.
Okay, good. I think I know what it is. I'm like 35 pounds overweight. I think that's the main thing. This one is it's called a body blade, and it's a big giant carbon fiber thing. There's a rubber piece in the middle, and you shake it back and forth. And I coupled this with a balance pad. But this I had an old injury from volleyball, like in high school, decades ago, and I got this thing and I started using it, and I have like no pain in my shoulder anymore. And when I get pain in my shoulder again, I use this for a couple of days and it's gone. I don't even know what this is doing, but whether it's placebo or not, I'm still going to use it. But what do you think of body blades?
I love body blades. I use them all the time. We've got a couple in the clinic that I work at, and what is it doing? It's actually making you use your muscles. So perhaps some of those imbalances, some of those weaknesses, when you start using that body blade, you're actually firing more nerves in that part of your body, helping your brain communicate with those muscles a little bit better potentially. You get better muscle activation, posture's a little bit better aligned, pain decreases. But ultimately what you're doing is probably stimulating muscle to actually help support a joint or help decrease stress on a blood supply, a nerve supply, or something like that. Love body blades. I think they're excellent. You can use them for core. You can use them for shoulders. You can do them for a lot of different things. I think they're awesome.
Cool. Okay, two more. This is a balance pad. And for those of you listening, it's just a giant blue rectangle. I'd say it's about like 3 inches thick. And anyway, I just stand on this. That's all I do is I'll just stand on it. And this is something that that was prescribed after I was in a car accident, and so I got insurance to pay for it, which is great. But I'll do this, or I'll do this in conjunction with kind of like the body blade, and it kind of helps with like lower back stuff. Is this worth anything, or and what is it doing?
Yeah. Once again, I love all types of balances for anybody who's 95 to 5 years old. Well, usually the 5-year-olds don't really need it too much.
They will.
Exactly. So you mentioned that you got rid of some of your left shoulder pain when you removed your armrest.
Right.
Well, as soon as you removed your armrest, there's no more support. It's like you're taking a tripod and you took off one leg of that tripod. Well, now you just have a bipod, and that's not nearly as stable as a tripod. So in the human body, there has to be compensation somewhere, and that means your core actually has to do more. Balance beams, foam balance, just single leg balance. You don't even need anything special. Phenomenal for getting core activation, leg activation. Doing exercises on this foam can actually help stimulate muscles all throughout the body. I think it's phenomenal, even for sitting posture, because you have to have good core strength for sitting posture as well.
Great. Okay, last final thing in the lightning round. This thing, and I've heard it called a number of different things, but it's basically like a gyroscope ball. And you get it going, and it gives you resistance. And I move my arm kind of in a circular motion, sometimes like this, sometimes like a waving motion, sometimes a circular motion, and then sometimes like I'm turning a doorknob. And what I find is whenever I get kind of that pain in the tendons of my hand, or the pain that's near my elbow or running down my forearm, that doing this, no more than 2 times a day for just a couple of minutes, it solves that real fast. Is it worth something? What is it doing?
Perfect. I love it. There's a lot of different ways of working these muscles, but what I like about that contraption is that you're working a lot of different muscle groups with one exercise, basically. So I mentioned kind of doing wrist curls, whether you're doing kind of extension or pulling your wrist back or curling your wrist forward, like you would, a throttle or the reverse throttle on a motorcycle. What you're doing with that one is you're working 360 degrees of your wrist, because your wrist can move in, a lot of different degrees of motion. You're working a large, I shouldn't say group of muscles, but multiple groups of muscles. Mm-hmm. All of that is going to help maintain strength or increase strength, and once again activate those muscles. So when you're drawing, maybe you're using a lot of what we call your wrist extensors, mm-hmm. Which are the muscles on the top part of your forearm. Okay. But you also need to balance that out by using your wrist flexors. And if you have that imbalance, you can get some of this tennis elbow pain or those types of symptoms. But that exercise is going to be phenomenal for, once again, just trying to create more symmetry in the body. And that's why I think your pain's probably decreasing, just because you're doing a better job of activating all those stabilizing muscles of the wrist.
Great. That's awesome.
So I would say take all those things and put them into a daily routine. Maybe not a daily routine, but 3 times a week, maintenance. So you've got your foam, you've got your body blade, you've got your wrist roller thingamajigger. And if you can do all of those things a couple times a week, and if you can stay religious doing those things, I think overall you'll have decreased aches and pains, because you're maintaining better muscular strength, if you will, or muscle adaptations, if you will.
Great. That's awesome. That's good. Okay. So any final thoughts, if you were to tell all the artists in the world, one big piece of advice, what would that be in closing here?
Oh man, stay active.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing, you can go so many different directions with that, but getting up every 45 minutes to an hour, once again, maybe that's only 30 seconds, maybe that's 5 minutes, and you're doing one of these routines or some of those, things that you just brought out. But staying active is going to decrease your chances of injury in general.
Great. That's awesome.
Remember, you're an athlete. You're an athlete.
Yes, we're athletes. That's how this works. So, so Jordan, where can people find you on Instagram so that we can watch you and your son have all these awesome adventures?
So I've got an Instagram, Fit Right PT. I usually put more informational things. A lot of it's tailored to endurance athletics since that's my passion. Um, I also have a website, fitrightphysicaltherapy.com. That's more for people who are in LA. If you have any questions or whatnot, you can reach out. Or if you have any questions, you can go ahead and email me. My contact information is on there. And there's oftentimes we can do a lot just via email. I'm all about saving those co-pays if you don't need to go in to utilize insurance and whatnot. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Great. Sounds good. Okay, well, thanks for everybody in the chat. And if you want to check out my stuff, you can always go to CoryKerr.com. Just a reminder that we'll be doing a sticker stint, kind of a shorter version of that, where the last 2 weeks of February, I'm going to try to get as many people as possible to make a sticker every day. With me, I'll be doing that and posting progress live. And so if you want to do that with me, jump on to CoryKerr.com/sticker stint. And as always, you can check out this podcast that you are currently listening to at CoryKerr.com/48HR. I would super appreciate if you guys would share that with your friends, tattoo it on the back of your hand so you see it all the time. Write it in your bathroom mirror so you look at it while you're shaving or whatever. But most importantly, leave me a review because those reviews really help kind of spread the word and everything. And we'll see you guys in a couple days.